access to information in this much heated time of elections. Many a time, citizens cry out foul play in regard to not knowing what to do with regard to where they are supposed to vote and who perhaps is supposed to give them this information. Today on the spot, we are putting people that have been players and actors in the electoral process thus far. We're asking ourselves whether policies in our country enable an active citizenry with information. Do they get the empowerment they need before they can engage with information? Perhaps it's about time we ask the question, who is to blame if we do not have the right access to information? And what information is there for us to know? To help us understand this, I will be your host, Jacob Eyeru, and I'll be with a panel that I'll now introduce to you. Many perhaps already known to you, but some you'll find to be new. The Honorable Member of Parliament, woman Member of Parliament representing Kasese District, and the immediate former leader of opposition in Parliament. Honorable Winnie Kiza, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
You
Jacob.
perhaps might greet them to just let them know you're the one.
Hello, everyone. I'm Winnie Kiza, the Member of Parliament for Kasese District, and I'm glad that I'm here discussing the issues to do with election processes and management, and where you, the electorates, are supposed to be the key actors and possibly the things that you need to know about the election. Thank you.
Joining us to my right is a now famed political player. Dr. Charles Ayume is the NRM flag bearer after defeating the Honorable Minister Anite in Koboko Municipality. You're very welcome, sir. You may greet our viewers and our listeners.
Yes, good afternoon, viewers. As I was introduced by Jacob, my name is Dr. Charles Ayume. Feels very good to be in front of a panel and at the same time share the same bench with Honorable Winnie Kiza, whom we grew up watching and listening to. It's quite a privilege, Honorable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we will be talking a lot politically, but we need someone to create the context of necessity. And that will be none other than Mr. Gilbert Sendugwa, if I pronounce that right, the Executive Director of the African Freedom of Information Center. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
To start us off, we would like to know from Mr. Sendugwa. I'll cut that as time comes by. But we'll be talking to him about the context. Why is it important for us to have any access to information? Is it not enough that the candidates campaign and we listen? Perhaps there is something that we are missing and would like to know. If there is anything, we'd like to know how much information should we access? Or is it always an open play when it comes to political display? You're very welcome, Mr. Sendugwa.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, viewers and listeners. When it comes to elections, access to information is very critical. How can people choose when they don't know what they are choosing? How can they participate in a process which they don't trust? So to be able to participate effectively, a citizen needs to know information on who the candidates are, what they stand for, what is their record, who is organizing elections, when elections are going to take place, where they are going to vote, how the counting is going to be. The counting now, as you know, given events of the past 2 weeks, has become so crucial that people need to know who is actually going to be counting. How are elections going to be transmitted from point A to point B? And what is going to take place between point A and point B? Is it something that people can trust? As it is in Uganda here, the issue of who counts is increasingly becoming an important issue. That it's not the vote that people have cast, but who counts, who transmits results. These questions are becoming very, very important. Now, access to information, let's say there are different players in electoral process. We have, for example, the Electoral Commission, which is mandated by law to organize free, transparent, and credible elections. Now, it seems from the minds of an ordinary Ugandan, this issue of trusting the EC has been a big challenge. We had a lot of rumors after the 2011 elections that results were switched. We couldn't believe what people were saying, because how can you switch votes? So I think our institution sought to test it and either confirm or dispel what was being said in the public. So in 2014, we made an information request for presidential elections, presidential and parliamentary elections for the whole country, polling station by polling station, so that we're able to conduct this independent analysis and give feedback to citizens. Unfortunately, we didn't get response contrary to what the law provides. That was in June. We followed up in August. Again, no response. So the Electoral Commission has a duty to inspire confidence by informing the electorate that they are up to the task, that they are discharging this duty on behalf of every individual citizen, so that the outcome reflects the true will of the people. The second issue that is of public interest, in my view, is the fact that in every election, there are different stakeholders, different actors. You have Electoral Commission, you have security services, you have candidates, but you also have people who are candidates, but at the same time running public offices at the same time.
So, Mr. Sendugwa, this access to information of all these things, running public offices and so on, that goes around, to what extent does that lead us to a credible election, free and fair, if you like?
So the first thing is that if there is no public access to information, it is unlikely that there is going to be a credible and transparent and fair election.
Thank you.
And the question why information is important, you are putting someone in office who is going to decide on what public funds are collected, how public funds are going to be used, on what priorities. So it is important that information is made available.
Thank you, Mr. Sendugwa. We will come back to you.
Thank you.
I'd like to pick it up with Honorable Woman MP. And I would like to start from the place that is most suited for you. You recently announced that you will not be running again for Parliament.
Yeah.
That means you're leaving us with only an experience of previous elections. Yes. Could you take us through how the access to information for voters in this country through those elections has impacted, one, the outcome, and two, the credibility of the election?
Thank you so much, moderator. I would like the viewers to know that, first of all, it's the responsibility of the Electoral Commission to do civic education. Electoral Commission must ensure that all voters who are going to participate in an electoral process know what they are supposed to do, their roles and responsibilities, including the candidates. They are actually supposed even to brief the candidates what is expected of them, either fair play, the rules of the game, the rules of engagement, and even assure the candidates that there will be areas, maybe sometimes they may not agree on certain things, but there is a conflict resolution mechanism in the electoral body. And that this electoral body is going to be really for everybody, so that all candidates know that they are playing from a leveled ground. The unfortunate bit is that the many elections that I have gone through, Even when I have told Ugandans that I'm not seeking re-election again as a woman member of parliament for Kasese district, I've had so many elections that have gone through. I participated as a district councillor for 2 terms, as a member of the district council, and as a member of parliament, I have participated in several campaigns as an individual and for other colleagues. But I can tell you that the citizens have less information. The Electoral Commission has not, for example, played its role to the dot. There are those who are going to the election day or even in the line but do not know what to do. That is why you will see that even when candidates are going to line up, voters are lining up to go and vote, someone can still give them 1,000 and they switch from the person they were meant to vote to another person in whose favor they have received the 100. Because first of all, they don't even know the reason why they are voting.
Honorable, some will say they're just generally poor, that they need that 1,000 and whoever cares is the one that is giving.
You know, if they had enough information, the voters should have known that it's the responsibility of government to do certain things to get them out of poverty. But because they don't even know that they have a government in power which is supposed to sort some of their issues, they now look on to the candidate. A councillor will even be in position to tell the electorate that I'm going to do a road, I'm going to fix the issues of education, I'm going to do water. The voters can even vote someone on the basis of this person appearing on funerals. This one buries. Because they don't know exactly what their member of parliament is supposed to do or their councillor is supposed to do. This information, the voters should have been told by the Electoral Commission. Even some of the candidates that show up on election day, some of them do not even know the rules that govern them. They don't even know the laws that govern them. Even when there is this access to information law, even when there are these many laws governing elections, people don't know. So that is why even a candidate will wake up and they tell you, you know, we have brought you mosquito nets. You are supposed to go and vote the NRM because it has sent you mosquito nets.
Honorable.
So they use some of the state resources for purposes of canvassing for elections. And because the people don't know that their government is supposed to provide for them these resources.
So, Honorable, just to hold you there, does that therefore mean that the people of Kasese, for whom you have represented voices for times without number, now know these things? Because during the campaign times, you talk to these people. Is there no mandate on the part of the candidates to sensitize the people? Is it only a work of the EC?
Actually, the AAC is given money throughout the year to do this work. And as Parliament, we have ensured that AEC is budgeted for and all these activities are done. Our assumption is that by the time an election process begins, all Ugandans should be at the same pace, knowing what they should expect from the candidates and knowing what their role should be. Now, it remains a duty of the different candidates. It is us candidates now who go overboard to do the work of Electoral Commission. After knowing that you are a candidate, then you go even on voter education. Honorable,
but the Parliament is the one that has oversight over all institutions of government in this country. And one of your roles as Parliament is to ensure that these institutions are working. If the EC is not doing that, why allow them a tenure of 5 years before you check them?
You know, indeed it's our duty to ensure that oversight is done. But time and again, and you know, maybe because some of us are on the side that advises government, every time we have held EC accountable, the issue has been that is what they are supposed to do. Because their issue is to either oppose or do what. But I can tell you that Parliament on its part has held EC accountable on many areas. We have let EC understand that they have not done their work as they are supposed to do on our part as Parliament. And in the process of holding them accountable after doing the oversight role. we are not supposed to be implementers, for heaven's sake.
Thank you.
After we have passed the law that gives the EC the mandate to do its work, ours is to ensure that EC does the work.
Thank
And
you.
we have done it. There are many reports that have been written by the committee to which EC is responsible that have told them the flaws.
Thank you.
That they have
Honorable,
told them where they have
hold
not
it
done
there.
their job and where they have done it better.
Let me bring in Dr. Charles, the fresh name on the block. Coming from the hot election, would like to first start with how did information impact your election? Do you feel like it played a role play that is perhaps vital for your win?
Yes, I think it definitely did. And you cannot divorce information with literacy levels. The fact that I was studying in a municipality, I think
Yeah,
the level of comprehension
yeah.
of this information you're talking about, processing it, I think goes hand in hand with literacy levels. And I think also the socio-economic, if you look at a municipality vis-a-vis the peri-urban and rural areas, people can discern, people can make the right choices, even with force multipliers and other incentives. So I was able to package my information correctly through a right manifesto of 7 points, and I sent it out, and I think they were able to process it better.
So would you say that by your example, by your experience, we now have an electorate, at least in the urban settings, who understand their roles, their responsibilities, and can vote on the basis of information in the country? Would you say that?
There are so many co-founders. It also depends on who is being marketed. Sometimes you may be marketing the wrong candidate. Some candidates, no, with all due respect, some candidates are harder to market. Also, the nature of the candidate, how eloquent, how articulate, how believable is this candidate when you're selling.
Yes.
You understand? You look someone into their eye and you're putting a point across, and these guys are like, yes, we actually buy into what you're saying. So there are so many other confounders. I can't say there's a silver bullet to your question.
How did you go through the gatekeeper of Koboko, by the way? That was a big question.
Well, the current story is that we jumped over the gates.
All right, we'll pick it from there.
That's what's
How
trending.
do we get this attribute that you see in the urban centers to trickle down to the rural electorate that form the bulk of the electorate? Because then if it's reserved for the urban, we do not have an electorate that can prevail with access to information.
One thing is that I think every 5 years, the electorate is becoming more educated and more aware of their rights, because you have a bunch of people who are 15, 16.
So are you saying
in
we should
school.
play a waiting game? 5 years and then we count how many have known now? 5 more years?
I'm not saying we should put our guard down and not continue with civic education, but one thing is, I think, one, there is hope. Two, the information we are talking about, I think, also goes down to the citizen. We should not only look at it as a preserve of, disseminating it as a preserve of the Electoral Commission. Civics, I think, when I was in primary, was taught. Then in secondary, we had, I think, political education. All these things, basic administrative structures of government. What is government supposed to do? The 3 arms of government. If we can get a set of people every 5 years being channeled into the system and they appreciate that. My sister, Honorable Kiza, was talking about a basic thing like mosquito nets coming, and because they have a particular color, and somebody stands out there and says that we are the ones who have brought these things, and now the Ministry of Health has to say we'll go for a neutral color, which is white. Somebody is saying that I'm going to, an LC1 or a councillor saying we're going to build this road or this dam in a month's time. The citizens need to also appreciate how does government channel out priorities? How is it taken to Parliament? How does the technical arm
All right.
advise Parliament and things like that. So for me, I think it's 3D. It's government is involved, EC is
Yeah.
involved, and people have to have the gusto of wanting to know about what's going out there.
Great. And one of the things that your competitors say people are getting to know from you is that, with all due respect, of course, is that you are Yume, and that is the basis upon which you galvanized support. What do you say about these claims?
For me, I think not whoever is born with a silver spoon or has an opportunity to have a silver spoon in their mouth translates into success. We have seen people with handed legacies, and within a year to 5 years, 10 years, they have sunk them.
All right. Thank you. We'll be coming back.
I am self-made. I'm self-made.
Thank you. The viewers will be telling us a lot more about that. We'll be coming back. This is Face the Citizens, and we'll be coming back shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back, and this is Face the Citizens. We are discussing the question of access to information during elections in this country. We are with the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kasese District. That's the Honorable Winnie Chiza, the woman Member of Parliament. And we are with Dr. Charles Ayume, the NRM flag bearer for Koboko Municipality, famous for the Honorable Anite, who lost to him. We will now be talking to you and our panel here about what we have done in the past, what we've observed in the past, and to know whether we are moving forward or we're just only moving circles in this country. Honorable Winnie Chiza, we'll take it from 2016. The EU Observer Mission to our country recommended that voter education and many aspects of information access be included in the work 5-year fold for the Electoral Commission. As Parliament, what has been your observation during this tenure leading up to 2021? And do we feel like we are actually having any progress from these Observer Mission reports?
Thank you so much, moderator, and our viewers and listeners. The report was so detailed. And for anyone who cares to read, I would still call upon Ugandans to read that report. The report was almost similar to the ruling that was handed to Amama Mbabazi, most especially the recommendations. And to us in Parliament, we kept asking government to bring these reforms that the report talked about.
Okay.
The reforms that were presented to us as a way of answering to the EU Observer Mission report and, of course, the court. The biggest thing that was now brought to Parliament was the removal of the age at all levels, because they told us they wanted even people, citizens at 18, to be able to contest as presidents of this country. And that one, I can tell you, overshadowed almost all the aspects of the law. The missions report, the Observer Missions report of the EU, alluded to the neutrality and a leveled ground for all the political actors. We thought possibly government would come up with now these recommendations to bring up maybe amendments to the Constitution to ensure that all of us feel safe under an organized election. And we also thought that Electoral Commission will pick up on its part the contents that spoke to the Electoral Commission. Well, maybe they picked up, but I can't tell you that I've seen much of this being done.
Honorable, it is the duty of the opposition to keep checking government. If this is a critical part of our democratic practice, for which the opposition has been loudest, don't you think then it was your duty as opposition to lead that charge? And perhaps even further, as leader of opposition, it was right in your docket?
Well, I can tell you that as opposition, when we realized that government was not bringing up the issues, our Shadow Attorney General presented a private members bill. And this private members bill is answering to some of the concerns. The unfortunate bit is that they have not given it a maximum attention. It was heard last week. I am sure when we come back this week, possibly some of the contents of this bill will be taken up, and to us, we have taken it upon ourselves to ensure that we advise government accordingly, and our advice is in that
Isn't this
bill.
a little too late? Elections have already started, people are campaigning.
Because
we're going to come to SOPs later, but people are already out.
I can tell you it is a little bit late, not on our part, because at least as far as I am concerned, this bill was put before Parliament some time back. And government kept on telling us they were going to bring a law that answers these questions. We were assured by the government chief whip that we are talking about a accompaniment of electoral reforms, and that they wanted to first put up an electoral reforms commission that was supposed to propose certain issues, which were also in the report anyway, and we kept waiting. When we saw that we were waiting and the waiting is not yielding anything, that is when the Attorney General, the Shadow Attorney General, came up with a private member's bill, which is before Parliament. Our thinking was that this bill will be made into law before we even go into the election processes. But they kept waiting and drilling it, making it hard for us to bring up this law. But we believe that if it is given this, maybe this week, and next week, by the time we go into the electoral processes, some of the contents of this bill will still be applicable.
Thank you.
And we believe that if it is taken seriously and implemented, some of the aspects of the law are good for us as a country.
Thank you. Dr. Ayume, the proposition of the law that Honorable speaks of here is first to the effect that we know the funding sources of people's campaigns. We also know all the information that should be public. Most recently, a scenario occurred in this country. The people inclined away, we suppose, from the National Unity Party were able to petition and request for the documents pertaining the academic qualifications of the candidates that intend to run. That's Honorable Robert Chagulanyi. When the EC responded swiftly, NUP also responded by requesting the president's information. To this day, we have not been able to know whether that has come to fruition or it's something we'll long wait for. Do you think that the access to this information, first we have been talking about how it's deficient, but is it even being offered with equity? Do you think that we are having a challenge on those grounds as well?
I think it depends on the objective. Why do you need this information? Is it tit for tat? Is it give me and I give you?
So what if it is tit for tat?
Pardon?
Let's just go.
No. Sorry, what did you say?
I was saying that Article 41 of the Constitution makes
Access to
all
information.
public information
Accessible.
unless it infringes on the right to privacy or national security. Those two are two protections.
Okay, yeah, so anyway, going back to the issue of the objective, and now I've been schooled by him that it's a right. I think let's give it time.
Okay.
This information will definitely come out.
So do you think that there is necessity for equity?
Yes, there is necessity for equity.
So what then do you think should we focus on? Because if the same Electoral Commission later on came out to say that we apologize to Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, we shouldn't have given out that information. Do you think we are being fooled or in some sense?
Mistakes do happen, and I credit them for coming out to apologize. If they hadn't, then I think I would have an issue with that.
Thank you. So what information should candidates be encouraged to give out for this whole sense of access to information to happen? Because if the EC is falling short, the candidates should not fall short, so to speak. For those of you that claim some enlightenment and come in especially to unseat people that are already in these positions. Should there be a mandate on you?
I think the access to information should be what is provided within the law. And if the law stipulates this and then you put in a bid to access that information, then I think it should be availed to you.
Thank you. Dr. Ayume, we will now stay with you on another issue. Most recently, the voter turnout in the youth elections was at its highest in this country. Perhaps for many people, especially at the village level, it was because it was by lining up. However, voter turnout in this country has never hit 90%. We climaxed at in 1980, of course, with a lot of disdain in terms of public opinion, but we're at 80%. Since then, we've seemingly been on a downward trend. What do you think is the problem there with regard to voter turnout?
One is that you are saying that it was low or it was high?
It was highest in 1980, but of course we know what happened in 1980.
Okay, well, now one thing is that in terms of voter turnout, my experience, I think this is going to be the 5th time I've voted. I'm no longer youth, by the way.
Okay.
That the interest and lust in participating in politics is coming lower. And I observed that at least at the last elections, the people in the lines who were waiting to cast their vote. Back in the day, that election period was looked at as a public holiday for people to go out, merry-make and hangovers the following morning. But I was impressed that the number of people who were turning up was no longer the elderly, was no longer the middle-aged people, but even university students. And yeah, so it for me, it just showed me that the interest in the affairs of the country and the politics is coming much lower, and we expect to see more people coming forward, one, to present themselves, but most importantly, to also participate.
Thank you. I'll now come to Mr. Sendugwa, and as we take a question or two from the audience after that, would like to hear from you concerning how much personal information should go out to the public for public officials, because the president is, so to speak, a public servant, in our words, of course, but in many ways, his information is not public.
I don't think, thank you very much. I don't think that records pertaining to the qualifications of a president or candidate is private information. You know, the law says that to hold this office, these are the qualifications you must have. So it changes, it makes this information public. Second, the Access to Information Act precisely says that information held by public bodies, including all ministries, departments, and agencies. So the question is this information held by a public body? Is this information a danger to national security, which the Constitution protects, or does it injure privacy? So I don't think information regarding qualifications of a candidate or a president is a private record. And also, actually, Article 19, 3C of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights actually provides a clear standard of what should be kept private and what should be kept public. Okay. Now, one of these provisions is that in protecting a record, disclosure of the record, you should be, the agency must seek to protect a right that is protected by law. Now, I think whoever made that request and EC refused to disclose that information should be encouraged and supported to appeal, because the Act provides for appeal, and I believe there are strong grounds for which this appeal could be sustained.
Thank you. Just staying with you, one follow-up there is, if I underwent school, and you can tell by my capacity to lead a country for as long as our president has led a country, why should you access my information? If I've been able to bring you peace, you have been able to bring you all these things. And there have been all these elections where I've been validated as a qualified candidate. Of what purpose is it now to go back to my record?
Yeah, first of all, the Constitution makes this right for every citizen. A citizen being private, an individual, or a registered company or organization.
But 35 years, he has been there.
Yes, the thing is that it could be that the requester has never had access to this record because, you see, the EC has never published information of these candidates in public interest to say these are the people who are seeking to hold office, to serve you. This is these are the qualifications that they have, and we have received this information. Verify it if you want to verify it, or be assured that they qualify to serve you, so that people go and use this information. Unfortunately,
that's not part of EC mandate to some way blackmail people with their information. If someone has only F9s, why would you publicly display
it's
for
not
people
about,
to approve?
It's not about contents of the record, but the record itself.
Thank you. Let's take some questions from the audience here. And if you have any question, we'll be taking it now. But before any questions come up, I can see we are going to do a wait there. Let me come back to the Honorable Winnie Chiza. We would like to know how much of political party internal information should be available to the public, or is that something that the public should be exempted from? We only should care about the Electoral Commission and perhaps the ruling party, like the noise from the opposition always presents.
Thank you so much. Now, I think we can even take it from where he ended. That at any one time, any citizen interested in knowing the information about me that is public, because anything that they think is public about me has been asked by law. On a nomination, they will say any candidate who wants to become a candidate for this position, you are required to bring A, B, C, D. So every citizen is free at any moment to say, can I know Winnie's status in as far as this is concerned? That is why at some point you have found some MPs, even in parliament, and they say, hey, someone has complained that you are not educated. And actually they realize that the person did not have the qualifications, and yet the Electoral Commission had nominated the member, they had even participated in having him elected or she, and the person is in parliament. But they said, no, we realize that you were nominated in error and therefore elected in error, you cease to hold this office. They have chased them. This does not make it mandatory that someone has been president of the Republic of Uganda for 35 years, and therefore he has the qualifications. We may have discovered that he doesn't have the qualifications, and therefore we want the body that has the mandate of telling us that this is true or not true to tell us, give us the papers that he used on nomination. This can be the basis for us to launch a complaint. So it is really not proper that the law that applies to me will not be the same law that will apply in your case. Equity must be equity. There must not be corners. When Parliament makes laws, the assumption is that the laws are for all Ugandans. That's why they say that a good law must be a blind one. Remember when the Public Order Management Act was made, the issues were that this law is only targeting the opposition, and indeed everybody has seen it. It was a bad law, it was made in bad faith, and it was passed. But in this case, I think the mistreatment that is given to the National Unity Party is uncalled for.
Okay.
In the first place, if they realized that it was okay for our brother to get the qualifications of Chagulanye, the period when he was born and when he was not born, and put him to the unnecessary task that he was put to defend himself, We want the same to apply. When someone asks from 7 in his papers,
Yes.
let them receive them. If he has 9s, then we will know that he did not in the first place qualify
Let's
to
hold
be
it
in that
there.
office. Because if you have 9s, then you don't qualify for a certificate.
All right, we have
and
to
what
take
is
a
required is a certificate.
Yes.
So you don't qualify for it.
We have to take a break there, and we'll come back to whether the president is qualified or not qualified after this break. This is Face the Citizens.
If
and we
he's
will
qualified,
continue.
let them bring the papers.
We will come back to you after this short break. Welcome back to Face the Citizens. On this edition, we are talking about the access to information in our election times. And we are with the enviable Honorable Winnie Kiza as well as Dr. Charles Sayume. We will be asking many questions, but before we proceed, we'd like to take some of the questions of our socially distanced audience with us today. And I'll start with the lady.
Hello everyone, my name is Chenge Laura. I'm a student of Uganda Christian University. My question goes to, I keep forgetting the name, but yes, Gilbert. My question is, as EC, during this time of elections, we are coming to the time of elections, do you have a person or an outsider that you consider or you trust to attend the meetings and so on, so that when they come out from the meetings, they are able to verify to the community members that this has been discussed? Because many people may not trust your agents, they would rather trust someone within the community. Do you always consider having an outsider during your meetings?
Thank you. Mr. Sendugwa is not from the EC, but I'm sure he has the answer to that question. Let's have a lady at the extreme end.
Thank you so much. My name is Nasim Hamida. I'm from Busiro East. I want to ask Dr. Ayume. Dr. Ayume, it's public information that the NRM make sure the citizens stay ignorant. And I think, according to what I have heard you discuss, you would wish to see your constituents get access to information. But your party, the one you're going to run under, does not accept that. How are you going to ensure that your voters access information?
Just to clarify, are we talking about Uganda, which has the laws that provide for access to information, or you're talking about another country?
I'm talking about Uganda.
Okay, we'll come to that. Let's have a question at the front.
Thank you so much. My name is George Kanyihamba, and I'm African Student for Liberty and a Chambogo University student. My question is about Public Order Management Act and then the Electoral Commission. I'll channel the question to the panelists. Don't you think that the laws or the guidelines that are brought up within the Public Order Management Act and the Electoral Commission guidelines are non-neutral? Because if we look at the guidelines they bring, and in their implementation, they really do target the opposition instead of targeting all the parties.
It would help us to know which examples you're talking about.
For example, if we look at how in this period of COVID-19, the member of parliament on the side of government have been organizing crowds even without masks. But when opposition parties or candidates try to organize one, they just disperse them with the police. And then the Public Order Management Act itself, even if you apply when you're on the opposition side, they will still storm it. We can look at when Dr. Besigye and Bobi Wine were having a conversation somewhere, and police just stormed them, yet they even had masks. Don't you really think that the Electoral Commission, its neutrality, should be opposed? And
thank you.
Would not believe in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's start with Dr. Sendugwa on the constitution of EC meetings. And if you could just pass that microphone to your extreme left, sir. The idea that the lady Laura presents is that perhaps because the EC is working in our interest as citizens, we should have a representative there to just tell us what occurred there. Is that something you find plausible?
Thank you very much, and that's a very good question. Thank you for that question. So if I may paraphrase, her question is that meetings of the Electoral Commission public meetings? The answer is yes. Now, citizens are allowed to attend and access public meetings. So I think that answers the question. But a related issue is records of a public agency, in this case, Electoral Commission, accessible.
Yeah.
The law says yes, except if a deliberative process is still taking place. A decision has not yet been made on a particular issue. They may not give you that information. Once a decision has been made on any issue, if it does not injure national security or privacy of a person, that information is public and should be released by that public body.
Thank you. Let me come to Dr. Ayume, and there's an interesting question for you from the aspirant from Busiro. You are representing a party that, in her opinion, is at the forefront of curtailing any access to information, yet you argue so well here for the necessity of the same. Are you not playing a double-edged sword on us as citizens? And how do you reconcile your own participation with your values, with what she thinks is the representation of the NRM in the public?
Well, I disagree with her that there's been an intentional ploy to curtail access to information. And when you look at growth in some of the sectors that are responsible for dissemination of information, the communication sector, I think over the last 20 years or 30 years, some of these media houses were monopolies. I think UBC, the telecom network, there was also a monopoly, Uganda Post and Telecommunications. But now there's been growth under government, under the NRM government. If you look at, I think now there are about 4 major telecom companies, and then the other subsidiaries. And from UBC, now I think there are over 400 radio stations.
So you're saying that
TV stations.
Permission of these to start up is an allowance by the NRM government to have access to information?
Yeah, of course, that has been there in their strategic plan, and I think they have delivered on that. The conduits for delivery of information. But well, that said that there are no bumps along the way.
The bumps are that people are not allowed to appear in radio stations.
Yeah. No. The bumps could
are
also...
those bumps or those are actual big gullies?
The bumps... the bumps could be, by the way, from individuals themselves. Yes. Some of... the members of parliament do not cascade the information from, you know, parliament is the highest decision-making body. So they don't translate that information down to the grassroots. Along my campaign trail, I was doing civic education, explaining government policy, explaining upcoming government programs. I was a bit gobsmacked that people in my constituency didn't know about the Emyoga program. Yeah. It was news to them. You understand? So I don't know if it's a deliberate effort or it's also maybe the quality of...
Dr. Ayume, some would say that an informed electorate is a dangerous electorate.
Yeah.
You will not have corruption thrive, you will not have robbery of land, you will not have all these things that the NRM is being blamed to have orchestrated or even permitted. Do you think that this is the same in your mind, for which we should perhaps hear you out?
I would choose to err on the side of positivity. It's actually a good thing because from like my sector, just look at the basic interventions that government applied to the corona situation. These are very basic. Yeah. I would call them, somebody in Europe would call them rudimentary measures, but they were effective. And if we had more literacy levels, a more informed population, then some of these basic things, wash your hands, cholera would be obsolete.
Yes.
Something that was in the United Kingdom more than 120 years ago would be totally obsolete. But you ask somebody to basic public health measures,
Yes.
and they still question them. You go to the markets, so many things. So for me, I think having a more educated citizenry is actually, it's a positive thing, and it helps us in cost cutting.
Thank you. I'll turn to Honorable Winnie as we come to an unfortunate close. We have heard from Mr. George Kanyihamba here that the COVID guidelines, basic information like Dr. Ayume is putting it out, is not being followed basically. We have some sides being permitted the gatherings that the laws do not permit, or the directives of His Excellency do not permit, and the other sides bearing the brunt of what exactly is the repercussion of not following His Excellency's guidelines. What do you think is a challenge there? Is it just a question of neutrality, or it is lack of access to information? Some of you perhaps don't know.
First of all, I am surprised. Actually, when Dr. Ayume was trying to respond to the information he was giving to his voters for purposes of their information, I'm surprised that a district that has ministers, has predominantly NRM members of parliament, they could not even easily push the Emyoga project, which is a president's project, to their population. In a sense, they also want to keep it silent. Maybe they select a few groups to benefit from the Emyoga project, and they say we have given you this.
You might trust Dr. Ayume's campaign strategy a bit too far.
No, I am trusting him because I know that really many of the leaders, like Amida said, feel an empowered community is a good one for purposes of manipulation. And I can tell you it's the reason why many of the Ugandans have not been educated to the level they are supposed to be. Kanyihamba talked about the Public Order Management Act.
Yes.
If we put this in relation to the access to information, my brother, when I was leader of opposition, I wanted to inform Ugandans that we were going to change the constitution. But everywhere I went, I was tear-gassed. They didn't want me to inform Ugandans, and yet this is my role as a member of parliament. It's the role of all legislators to let their people know, actually, because we represent people, every law that comes to the House, we are supposed to seek the views of the people we represent. But we are not allowed. And this, in a way, contravenes the provisions of the access to information.
All right.
In the same way, when my sister there asked whether the Electoral Commission is mandated to speak to the public on issues of electoral affairs, that tells you the level at which Ugandans are.
In 1 minute.
In terms of access to information. And therefore, I call upon the Electoral Commission,
yes, with
all the money that we have given you as parliament, go out and sensitize the Ugandans, let them be aware of their rights and their duties as Ugandans, not only in terms of elections, but also in terms of governance. Do fairness to all Ugandans. I don't know at what stage Electoral Commission woke up to say we have given Kyagulanyi's records in error.
All right.
Because they should use the same law from the beginning to the end, from the smallest to the biggest.
Yes.
If they knew that there was a law that curtails them from giving out this information, they should have been with this information from the word go.
All
so
right.
that if anybody comes for Winnie's papers, they will know it is against the law. If someone comes for Kyagulanyi's papers, they know it is against the law, and therefore the same law does not allow them to give the papers to someone asking for Museveni's issues.
You. Dr. Ayume, what are your concluding remarks for our country?
Maybe I would just want to respond to Mr. George Kanyihamba that the Public Order Management Act is not selective. I'll give you an example that during this, the issue of the processions, which I was not part of, I was in Kampala when it happened in Koboko, I was summoned to CID headquarters. And not only I found a bunch of other either NRM incumbents or aspiring candidates who are all there and had to face the wrath of the law.
So you were lucky to get summons. You were not arrested.
No, I was summoned. I think I would have been arrested had I ignored the
All right. So what should we do going forward in about 30 seconds?
Apologized before.
I think going forward is we have to continue with a lot of civic education, and it's not only the responsibility of the Electoral Commission. The citizenry, it's your right to demand for this information. Other sectors should be involved, like the education sector.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, it becomes also cheaper for we, the candidates, because I know I am not going to go and tell the electorate that I'm going to build for you a dam they're able to process.
All right.
You understand? They're able
Thank
to
you.
analyze, internalize.
Unfortunately, we have to bring it to a close.
Thank you.
Our viewers, thank you so much for being with us on this edition of First to Citizens. It has been said that information is sought, it is not brought. And we hope that as citizens, you will engage with finding information on this electoral process if it is not brought to you. So in the next 10 years, you're able to hold the leaders and the institutions that be accountable. First to Citizens will return, hopefully with me, Jacob Beyeru, and we will be able to hear again from our leaders and from your viewers. Until next time, so long.